Welcome back to this week's special episode of the Unprocessed Truth, where we're doing an amazing live episode with 3 amazing guests all at once so we can get to the truth of what's really going on in the wellness industry and how you can stop being scammed by all the hype and the claims and the trends that just aren't true, so you can focus on real health and wellness. And we're now live on YouTube, so you can watch the whole thing in full HD from the comfort of your living room. So please like and subscribe there and give us a follow. This episode is recorded on location in Shoreditch, so the audio quality may be a little bit noisy with a few chatters and bangs in the background, but please forgive us and we hope you enjoy listening. So first up, Dr. Emily, who's a PhD nutrition scientist. Get on up here. Then we have the dietitian, Nichola Ludlam-Raine, who has 15 years clinical experience. And the chef, men's health cover model, legend, Chris Baber. Let's go. Right, guys, welcome to the Unprocessed Truth. This is our podcast. This is our pop-up where we're all about stopping the scam. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because there's fantastic products out there. There's great things happening in health and wellness, which is amazing. There's more and more companies doing the right thing, which I love to see. But the reality is, it's got a bit cool, it's got a bit trendy, it's got a bit hypey, it's got a bit mushroomy and this and that and expensive and crazy. And sometimes it's just bloody confusing. And the reality is, real health, I believe, comes from the foundational stuff, getting the 90% right. And it doesn't have to cost the earth, right? I want to reach as many people as possible and help them be healthier, right? We've got 63% of the UK overweight or obese, yet most of them aren't gonna just go on some crazy expensive greens powder. That's not gonna make a difference to their health. So we have to educate, we have to try and help as many people as possible. And so tonight we're gonna get into the wellness fads, the wellness scams with these amazing experts who are gonna join me and give you guys the tips of what real foundational health looks like. Can't wait to get into it. Are you up for this?
Let's go.
You ready?
Gloves are coming off.
The gloves are coming off, right. And as it says here, we're drowning in information, but starving for wisdom. Wow, look at that. Okay, so part 1, the first bit, the wellness scam. We're gonna get right into it. So Dr. Emily, this is for you. You're gonna kick us off. From a scientific point of view, what's the wellness claim that keeps getting pushed despite weak evidence?
I think it's how black and white everything has become. Whether it's don't eat red meat or you absolutely have to eat red meat, or it's saying keto and whatever. When it comes to nutrition science overall, it's very rare for anything to be black and white. There is so much nuance, and unfortunately you can't get that over in 60 seconds. The algorithm does not favor credibility or accuracy. It just favors
controversy.
And the minute you can engage in it, that's it. It's on that kind of misinformation loop. So trying to break that is something that can be really, really difficult. And I think that all of this kind of silver bullet, massive claims, there's no silver bullet when it comes to health. And I think what is going to be the general message of tonight is the things that matter and really move the needle when it comes to health are the things that you've got to keep showing up for yourself day in, day out. It's kind of hard graft. There is none of this quick fix silver bullet. And unfortunately, everyone's flogging something that is that kind of silver bullet. And there ain't one. Mic drop.
Mic drop. Great answer. Nick, tell me, what's damaging people's relationship with food the most?
So hi, my name's Nick. I'm a dietitian. So I wrote a book about 18 months ago called How Not to Eat Ultra-Processed. And I think the thing that's damaging relationships is thinking that there are good foods and bad foods, a bit like what Emily said, this whole black and white, because there's no such thing as good and bad foods, just good and bad diets, because it's the portion size and frequency in which we eat all foods that matters most. So an apple isn't healthy if that's the only portion of fruit and veg that you're having in a week. A biscuit isn't unhealthy if you're having it with a cup of tea with a friend on a Friday afternoon. What is unhealthy is having 3 packets of biscuits on a Friday afternoon because you skipped your breakfast and you skipped your lunch. and entering a binge restrict cycle where you're saying, I'm never eating biscuits again because we're not robots. And that's what I see a lot I work in weight loss and bariatric surgery. And, people who I work with might be 20 or 30 stone. And before surgery, if I ask them to do a diet history, it's often, well, it depends if I'm on a diet or not. So they either give me a really, really healthy day, quote unquote, or a really, really unhealthy day. And so what I strive for, I know you said 90%, I'm a bit more realistic. So I've got 2 little children. I aim for the 80-20 rule. If you are doing things 80% of the time, whole foods or quote unquote healthily, the other 20% can totally be for your soul foods. And it's, I think, the people that miss the mark. So it's about finding the balance between eating to live and living to eat, as opposed to the extremes.
Are we still friends? Because I call my book The Good, the Bad and the Healthy. So I name checked some bad foods, but no, look, we're all trying to do the same thing. So Chris, from where you sit, been on the cover of Men's Health.
Oh,
legend.
Should have led with that.
That was a dream when I was 21. You achieved it. Legend. But you're also a chef and you've done loads of work with food. So from where you sit, what's the wellness scam you get annoyed with?
The wellness scam I get annoyed with, there's a few. I mean, I've been in the industry over a decade, so I've worked with retailers, I've worked fine dining, loads of different areas, so I've seen a lot. But the wellness, I think the scam is, it's like the marketing of foods, and obviously something we all follow you for is, I think the whole high protein thing, people assume is a healthy product. And it's obviously a way to draw people to a certain product, turn over the back. It might have 20 grams of protein, but it's also got 20 other ingredients. And, they see the protein bars, but not even just that. There's just it might be a salad, it might be this, but it's still pumped full of rubbish. And I think just the marketing of stuff. I mean, I spent so many years traveling around the UK, meeting farmers and suppliers and producers of the beautiful food we grow on this island. And you just think, why are they adding all this rubbish to what we already have? And I think, it's the marketing and probably the laws or the legislations around how they're allowed to call things healthy on a packet, because it's incredibly misleading.
I was just going to add, the technical term of what you're describing is like a health halo. And I think a great example is on a packet of marshmallows, it's labelled as fat-free. Or even my friend I once took a picture for my Instagram stories of the strawberry yogurt flakes. And my friend saw it and thought, oh, Nicola, eats them. And then, I said below it, beware, look at the ingredients list. The first ingredient was sugar. It wasn't yogurt, it wasn't strawberries. So they're health halos where this mass marketing directs you to one part of the product and it completely misses the bigger picture.
Okay, I'm going a little bit off field here, but it's only because I've settled in now, so I feel less nervous. And there is something that grinds my back teeth like nothing else. And it is that the wellness industry has lost its way and lost its science, but I would say it is built on the backs of women. And when it comes to that science, if it is ever present, it is based on male data. And so as women, when we then, take on the latest trend, be it cold plunges, intermittent fasting, and our body doesn't respond the way the internet tells us it should, we're left questioning ourselves, thinking that there's something wrong with us, rather than questioning the science that was never built with us in mind. So there is nothing that pisses me off more than that. I would say it goes in line with that. There was a study done in 2024 with Dublin University and MyFitnessPal, and it showed that only 2% of the time what you see on TikTok, social media, what you are faced with is accurate when it comes to health and nutrition. So 98% of the time what you are seeing on your feed is total and utter, are we swearing?
Yeah. Not our content though. We're more right than 2% of the time. We're the 2%. Okay, it's cool. But listen, let's get into UPFs because there is so much crazy health halos, stuff going on. Chris, you're saying, what crap are they putting into our food, adulterating all this wonderful British grown food that we could be eating that's real, it's whole food, it's nourishing. But instead, what are we now? 60% of our diet is ultra processed. In a kid's lunchbox, one study showed it to be 82%. And the problem I have with ultra processed food is that's going to be probably higher in calories or makes you eat more than you should because it's not very filling, and it's going to be low in nutrition. Often it's just wheat or sugar or nonsense. It's not giving you the nourishment you need. So when we get into UPFs, Nick, I know you talk a bit on your social about how some UPFs are kind of fine and you shouldn't worry about it, but what's your perspective?
Great question. So when you look at the data, of which most of it is fairly poor and most of it is observational, you can obtain that the higher your UPF intake, the worse your health outcomes. However, new data from, I think it's 2023, really big umbrella reviews, has showed that when you delve into the subcategories of ultra-processed foods, not all UPFs are bad for you. And I'll give an example. So my son is allergic to dairy, eggs, and some nuts. So I rely on these healthful ultra-processed foods to feed him a nutritionally balanced diet, and also to feed him so that he doesn't feel left out, for example, at parties. So ultra-processed foods come on a spectrum of health. At one end, you've got the HFSS UPFs, the high in fat, salt, sugar. Why are they so bad? Like we've said, they're hyperpalatable. They encourage what we call the passive overconsumption of calories, consuming too many calories without realizing it. They're so moreish, they melt in the mouth. They're also devoid of fiber and nutrients, and they crowd out the healthful foods, like Chris has mentioned, like the single ingredient whole foods. But then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got the foods that are not linked with disease risk, like fish fingers, baked beans. The hummus in my fridge is technically under Nova, who came up with the UPF definition, classed as ultra-processed. It's not linked with disease risk. So even fortified oat milk. So the UK government haven't adopted a definition of ultra-processed foods, and there isn't one globally agreed upon. I would like to see a definition that encompasses a concoction of different additives, let's say more than 2, and low in protein, low in fiber, low in nutrients, i.e. that product is linked with disease risk in large amounts. So when you look at the research, the plant-based foods, the high fiber foods, even wholemeal sliced bread, or for example, Weetabix, isn't linked with disease risk, categorically not. It's the sugar and artificially sweetened beverages. It's the processed red meats, like Emily's mentioned. This quote unquote junk foods, it's kind of a bit of common sense, foods that you wouldn't eat thinking, I'm going to be healthy today. There is also the question on emulsifiers, which I'm sure Emily can touch a little bit more on. But again, not all emulsifiers are bad for you. There are the red flag ones, P80, CMC, I can't remember what the corresponding E numbers are. Again, they're not really found in the healthful foods. I have found them in my tin coconut milk. We have it once a week. I've rationalised it. Do you know what? I'm making a curry from scratch with chicken, with broccoli and spinach. Because I feed my gut microbes enough fibre, it can cope with the odd emulsifier. And again, most of the data is on rodents and it's in large amounts. So your soy lecithin in your dark chocolate, again, like the data isn't there to support that it's negative on gut health. I could carry on talking, but
You've carried on, but you've mentioned gut health, which is your specialist subject. So what is UPF doing to the gut?
When it comes to gut health, we all love it, don't we, at the moment? So emulsifiers, they are not absorbed in your small intestine. So they reach your colon where the majority of the bacteria live. So if you're not familiar, this is what we call your gut microbiome. It's the community of microbes living in your gut. They are not passive passengers like we once thought. We thought they just merely kind of like helped us poo. They are not. They're chattier than me. They're talking to every system and organ in your body. And so when these emulsifiers reach your colon, they have the potential to interact with your gut microbiome. And because I believe the gut microbiome is the conductor of our health, it seems like we should figure out what they're doing. So when it comes to animal studies, just as Nick said, like they use sort of all animal studies, but also like where they make fake guts. There was a study done in 2022 where it tested lots and lots of different emulsifiers, and it showed that the kind of very common ones, soy lecithin, those kind of things, they had no effect on your gut microbiome. Great. There were ones that did seem to have very detrimental effects, but they are found in like, is there like 6,000 foods that contain emulsifiers, and of those it's like 1.4% for P80, I think, and for CMC it's like 0.06%. So again, I think it comes back to that like zooming out when it comes to your diet, like how much of an impact are they having? One thing that like grinds my gears when it comes to ultra processed foods is straight out of my PhD, I worked in policy. I was a research fellow for all of our sugar tax, national food strategy, all of those things. And when it comes to moving the dial on people's health, we always focus on this kind of like negative nutrition, what we should be taking out of our diet. And as a woman who grew up in the 90s, it was fat-free, carb-free, fun-free. It was a pile of crap, wasn't it? And so I much more prefer like talking about positive nutrition. If we look at the global burden of disease, which looks at when it comes to the dietary factors that determine basically death rate, the first one is salt. We absolutely need to lower our salt intake. But the remaining, like the following 8 that are contributing the most to deaths that can be attributed to diet are things that we're low in fiber, low in whole grains, low in fruits, low in vegetables. It's only when we get to around 9, 10 that it's high sugar, kind of HFSS stuff. So I think when it comes to this kind of like thing on ultra processed foods, yes, they are such a big part of our diet right now, but it's often because the healthy choice is often far more expensive, and that's the problem.
So we will get into cost of living in a second,
okay.
But Chris, you've come at it from the other angle.
Yep.
You're a chef, you've worked with farms. Tell us like how we can avoid more ultra processed foods and get real food in our cupboard, because you're saying it's about adding nutrition in, not necessarily taking stuff away.
Yeah, I agree. It's about what you add into your diet, and it costs another thing we can come on to, but I'll touch on it briefly. If you go to like south of France or Spain, the rich guy at the top of the hill and the working class family at the bottom of the hill both go to the same market, buy the same chicken, buy the same apples. And I think in a lot of European countries, it's a very different culture around food. I think when people say we're proper foodies in Britain, I think in London, maybe you're in a bubble here, but the rest of the country aren't. It's strictly driven by price. And price will determine the amount of crap that's in your cupboard versus not. But I think the messaging, I've probably been to about 50 different farms all around the UK, and people think it's expensive and this, that, and the other. It is if you're importing things in and eating them out of season. But if you eat with the seasons, it tastes better, it's more nutritious, and it costs less. Like people might think strawberries are on offer because Wimbledon's on TV. Well, incorrect. They're in season, there's a glut of them, so the price comes down and the farmers have to get rid of them. So I think like learning to shop and eat with the seasons is a more cost-effective and easier way to get more nutrition in. To the point on ultra-processed foods, I'm friends with plenty of Italian chefs like, Chris, no one in my family has got any allergies. None of them are overweight. Like gluten-free or oat, milk-free or whatever all that rubbish is. Like no one has a problem, but they eat fresh, seasonal foods. And I think it's just such a simple fix to a lot of health problems. And the more ultra processed food we eat, especially for the kids growing up, I've done a lot with getting kids into the kitchens. The more they're used to eating things from a packet, the skill set goes of just learning to cook for yourself. And I think that's a massive part of education, of getting younger people into food, getting them enjoy being around food and learning to cook. Even the basics can make a big difference in the long run.
So I'm going to give you the mic right back, because I want you to tell us the one meal that's fast, easy for everyone to cook, and will stop them ordering on Deliveroo and getting takeouts, when cooking real food can be quick.
I mean, this is one of the positives of social media. Anything, it's not just one recipe, but pretty much all of the stuff you order on Deliveroo, if you typed it in and then the word recipe, you'll probably find some great recipes. And a lot of, I used to work in a Michelin-star Indian restaurant. I learned so much about cooking stuff that I grew up ordering online, thinking, I could make a chicken bhuna in like 20 minutes. With peppers, onions, tomatoes, some basic spices, some chicken breast or thighs, no cream, no sugar, no MSG or anything like that. And I think like you can pretty much do everything because there's a recipe for everything now, and that's one of the positives of social. But it's just making the effort to go and do it. But yeah, try chicken bhuna.
I don't know how to cook a chicken bhuna, and I think I can cook. But no, it is about speed and efficiency and making it easy for people and getting over that fear of learning to cook with real whole foods, which we love. But Nick, you're a busy mum. Cost of living, it's expensive. Kids are expensive. God help us all. But essentially, what do you do to save your family money, keep them healthy?
Of course, and if you can't tell, I live in Yorkshire. I also spent over a decade working in Bradford, BD1, which is one of the most socio-economically deprived areas. My patients would visit food banks, etc. And it's not a case of, go to, a supermarket. It's, what's within your vicinity, mobility issues. And it's called food deserts, where there is literally a lack of healthy food within the vicinity. People can't get there. But what do I advocate? I think one of my biggest tips is to go frozen and tinned. Frozen fruit and veg actually contains more nutrition than fresh. It's so accessible, it doesn't go off. And tinned as well, tinned pulses. When I was looking into ultra-processed foods, I joined quite a lot of Facebook groups on ultra-processed foods to see what the lay population were thinking. And people were so extreme. They were like, is this tin of chopped tomatoes ultra processed? Is this tin of kidney beans ultra processed? I'm sorry, but if you're asking the question, is this ultra processed or not? That's the wrong question. It's what is the food made up of mainly? If it's citric acid as a preservative, if we removed all the preservatives, there wouldn't be a cost of living crisis, there'd be a cost of food crisis. So go for tinned. If you're worried about the calcium carbonate, which is just a type of salt in your kidney beans, just give it a rinse first. But not everything has to be cooked from scratch or dried lentils. And even, for example, when I make a bolognese with mince, I add kidney beans. I'm really sorry. I don't make my sauce from scratch because, I don't. I've got like a 4-year-old going mummy, and 7-year-old saying he's hungry, and I've got a work email on the side. But I do buy a decent jar of pasta sauce, and for example, you've got to meet people where they are. I personally, I buy sourdough bread by Jason Sourdough. I did a podcast this morning. She lives in London. She buys sourdough from bakery. Great. I don't have time for that. Also, my husband would not let me pay, £6 for a loaf or whatever. But a lot of my patients, I'm not going to mention, do you want to go for sourdough? I'm getting them to move to more wholemeal. So it's about meeting people where they're at.
100%. It's small steps from wherever you are, which is why I say eat baked crisps if you eat loads of crisps, because it's a step in the right direction for you. But Emily, gut health, bloody confused. I don't think science even knows everything yet. It's still learning. But would you say if we all just prioritise sleep and eating whole foods, would the whole gut health issues go away?
I don't know about all gut health issues,
Well,
but you're absolutely right. We are at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to gut health and understanding what these microbes are doing inside of us. It's only in the last decade that we've actually been able to measure them in any meaningful way, which is when gut health exploded. But what I always talk to people about is, and to be fair, I know we're kind of bashing the wellness world, but I'm not against it. I love to be the ultimate wellness girly. I want to see what everyone's taking, and the people in the room today, we are coming from this from a different lens. We are more of the privileged. We probably are buying the supplements and these kind of things. But when it comes to gut health, and I have so many people asking me which probiotic, which prebiotic, and they don't really know the difference anyway. And then they see the ultimate symbiotic, and then they're like, this must be it. They're what I grew up with 2 older brothers. So when I try and describe science and supplements and things and how they work, I tend to just use football analogies. So bear with me. It's also the moment when any man has ever mansplained the offside rule. This is where I take my moment back. So if you think of supplements as your upfront players, right? So you can take as many as you want. You get all the best goal scorers in the world, Messi, Ronaldo, put them all on your team, right? Take the lot. They cost a bomb. Great. They're scoring goal after goal after goal. But if you don't have a strong back four, your defense, which is a diet that is balanced, maybe if you want processed foods, 20%. But typically, whole balanced food diet, Mediterranean, great. You've got enough exercise, you're moving, you are prioritizing sleep and managing your stress. If those back four are in play, or if they're down actually, but you're taking all your upfront players, it doesn't matter how many supplements they score. Is this making sense? It doesn't matter how many of your upfront players kick the ball in the back of the net. Because if you don't have a strong back four, you're always going to be conceding. So on the scoreboard, you're always going to be down. And I think this is our problem. I think when life gets busy and lunch gets beige at the same time and we're not eating colourfully, those back four go down, but we always think, I need to go and get that supplement and that supplement. And actually it's taking a breath and saying, okay, which of these foundations do I need to prioritize? And I think the one that gets missed in the wellness space, because it is so noisy, and I say this from the lens as a woman, because I do think a lot is marketed at us. And often if a man is taking something, it's often because their woman has bought it, so they're then taking it and things like that. I think it can feel really stressful for us. And I think that's the point where we need to realize that actually how much good is this perfectly balanced bowl that I put on my Instagram? How much goodness is that actually giving me if I'm in a constant state of stress? The amount of people that are in my DMs going I don't know what milk to drink. Everything says I'm going to drop down dead if I have an oat milk flat white. And I'm like, oh, honey, it's not the milk that's going to kill you. It's the stress that's going to put us on our deathbed at the end of the day. And I think if we are just so hyper fixated with biohacking and waking up at the crack of freaking dawn, are we actually better to have a little lie-in?
I love that analogy.
Nice.
I like football, so I understood it fully.
I knew we'd get on.
But also, like, you know, the point about stress, if you look at all the blue zones and you look at why these guys are living to 100, only a couple out of the 10 things they have in common is actually diet related.
Yeah.
A lot of it is purpose, it's community, it's family, it's stress, it's exercise, it's all these other things. So we can't just think about, oh my God, this milk's going to kill me, because obviously it won't. Let's go on to some action points now. We've talked a lot of theories, we've talked some good stuff, but I want some actionable things you guys can take away and do today. So Chris, I'm going to start with you. What's one thing people have in their cupboard that you want them to throw away now?
Personally, because I hate it, tofu, but if you like, listen, that's just personal preference because I think it's rank. And the one for me, and I think we've come away from, is all the fake meats and stuff. That was just a complete load of rubbish. Like, for me, it was like, what, you got this pea protein chicken, you've got these peas in a field, you drive them to a factory, ultra process them, wrap them in plastic to make them look and taste like chicken, put the price up, and then sell it to someone. Or you could have just had the peas and got the protein in the first place. So any fake food, effectively, that's what I want in the bin. And tofu.
And tofu. But yeah, look, tofu's actually one of the good,
it is
the good ones,
I just
right?
don't like the taste.
Tofu, yeah. Tofu and tempeh, one of the good plant-based
Yeah, we
meat
love them. They're
alternatives.
fermented.
You know, fermented,
Yeah, we
real
love it.
whole foods, arguably. So I'm going to stick up for tofu. Sorry about that, Chris. But Nicola, what's the biggest red flag on food labeling that you want to see changed?
Do you know what? It's when you see all green on a traffic light, but it's on the side of a Diet Coke.
Painful.
So, and you know, when you see a red and then you think it's bad and then it's on an oily fish or it's on nuts. So this is where common sense comes in. And, you know, things like Diet Coke, have them in your diet, but don't fuel your day on them. You know, pre-surgery, my patients might have 1 to 2 litres a day, and that's because the caffeine and the sugar is fueling them. Or a lot of them, if they've been on Slimming World, might have the diet one, and that's still fueling them all day. But then they get to the end of the day, and they're so deprived of nutrients and energy, they then order a takeaway, and then it's a massive binge in the evening. It's really hard. Front of pack labelling, they've got a hard job. Traffic light labelling can be useful, but it's about not taking it at face value. I always say flip the pack over, look at the first 3 ingredients on the ingredients list, because that tells you the majority of what you need to know. And if it doesn't have an ingredients list, then great, it's a whole food, stick it in.
Can I just add to the tofu point?
So there is a bit more to it than that. It's for me, stuff like tofu, avocados, it, like, from an environmental standpoint, like, the soybean, the production of all of that in different parts of the world, it can be incredibly bad for them, right? Avocados, the amount of water irrigation. So something different would be like if you whiz some peas up with a little olive oil, some mint, some garlic, you could do your like a local version. It's less expensive, there's more protein. So I think it's everything in moderation. Don't be putting tofu in your booner every night, but maybe once in a while. You can get away with it, but think about the environment.
I love that, because eating locally and in season is honestly, if there's one thing, if we care about sustainability, to eat locally and in season. It's not whether it's plant-based or meat. It's like, get your eggs from your local farm 2 miles down the road. That's where we're going to have the real sustainability wins and environmental wins, because we're not sending trucks and planes all over the world. So that, I think, is one of the biggest things that Health Halo tries to miss from a sustainability point of view. Because even Oatly, this is one that grinds my gears. I'm going to tell you one. Oatly, on all their marketing, put this reduces your CO2. And they did a study, and the study's great. And no one reads the small print. And the small print says, if you ship milk from Europe to the UK, then Oatly is lower CO2. But we buy all our milk from the UK. So it's bollocks. Buy your milk from the local farm. It will have lower CO2 than your oat milk because they ship it from Sweden. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So let's go back to the gut.
Okay.
The back 4. I'm interested. I need a strong back 4.
You do.
What's the main thing everyone in this room should do for their back 4?
Prioritize them, all 4 of them. Whole food, like plant forward diet. No, I'm not saying you all have to turn vegan, but we are not eating enough fiber. So fiber is found in your whole grains, your fruits, fruits, your veggies, your nuts, your seeds, and your legumes. Beans are having a moment, aren't they? They come in nice jars these days, so get on that bandwagon. Then also, when you up your fibre, please also up your hydration, because you need it to keep everything ticking over nicely, shall we say. And then prioritising your sleep. That is a big one. Get off your screens. Try and have your meal at least 2 hours before bed. You don't need to do intermittent fasting. Maybe someone can ask that question. Just an overnight fast is great for your gut. And then exercise, any movement, move your body in a way that feels good for you. And stress management is a massive one. So you might be familiar with your vagus nerve. This is what connects your gut to your brain. And, you know, your brain is talking to all the organs and systems in your body, but your gut is talking back to your brain. And in order for you to even really get the benefits of any workout that you do through to the food that you eat, you need to be in rest and digest. And I'm pretty sure that we spend 99% of our time in the other nervous system, which is fight or flight when we are stressed. And we continue to be. And the one way that you can get out of fight and flight and into rest and digest is by stimulating your vagus nerve. And you can do that with a fancy yoga class and all those things, or you can literally do it with your breath as you sit here now, taking in 3 deep breaths and let your belly expand, girlies. Like, undo the trousers if you need to, and stop wearing high-waisted trousers, because it's one of the worst things for your gut health.
Can I add a fifth player?
Yeah.
Go on, there's a fifth, back 5, defensive.
I don't follow football. Sorry,
Could be the goalie.
It's kind of linked with stress, but social connection. Because people can get so consumed with doing all these wellness hacks that they forget to actually connect. And that's like a big thing for me. Like, if anyone's got kids, you almost like you're either working or with the children. So what I try to advocate is trying to do something for me. So I'm telling you all now, I'm going to start paddle. I've been saying this for about a year now. But yeah, so it's social. It's about meeting up with friends and booking that into the diary, because as you said, in the blue zones, that's a massive thing.
I think that's such a good point, Nix, because we all talk about wellness in this like commercial world, I would call it. I have never once measured wellness in my almost 15 years of being a scientist. There is no measure for wellness, okay? We talk about well-being, and I think there is a big difference between wellness and well-being. Wellness is in all the little habits that we like make as our part of our personality these days. And then there's well-being, which is emotional well-being, social well-being, and obviously physical and mental well-being. They're the actual things that matter. It's a state of being, and we're all chasing this wellness ideal. And I'm like, what even is that? Like, it just isn't a thing.
And it's not tracking your health on a Whoop, for sure. It's actually not. It's kind of fun and interesting, but it's because I geek out on the data and it's interesting. But really, that isn't health and wellness. I totally agree. But it brings me on to my last and final question. It's a big one. And let's start with you, Chris. What does health mean to you?
Wealth.
Health is wealth.
Yeah, like for everything. Like, you know, it's hard to sum up. What does it mean to me? My background's athletics. That's what I wanted to do. So exercise is a big part of my life. Wellness, I think, just like not going into the nitty gritty, but like just having a sense of well-being. But it's hard to summarize. What does it mean to me? I think it means everything, because without it, you've got nothing. What's that saying? It's like you can have 100 problems, but when you've got one with your health, you've only got one. So I think it's like something that has to be a priority. You only get one chance at this life. So like just watch what you're eating, do some exercise and have fun with your friends, I suppose. But that's a big question. I should have thought about that before I turned up.
Well, your body is your car that takes you through this life, and you can't trade it in and get a new one when the engine breaks. So you do have to look after it. And we do an MOT for our car, but we don't do an MOT for our body on a regular basis, which is kind of wild. But Nick, over to you. What does health mean to you?
That's a big question. For me, I think health is being able to thrive in what you value, and everyone here will have different values. We are on this planet for such a relatively short period of time. We're just literally, passing through. So what are your values? What is your legacy? Where do you want to spend your time? And how can you do that? Like, not only feeling physically good, but also mentally as well. So it's waking up and feeling good. And also, not succumbing to illness or burnout too often. So it's about checking in with your body and realizing that you're not a robot and you have to put the right fuel in.
Emily, you've had time to think. This better be good.
I would honestly just echo what you guys said. So I might take a different spin and add a a study in, let's say, because I think we're all chasing health in a way, but health to me is sort of happiness. If you look at one of the longest studies that we have on health and happiness in our world, it is called the Harvard Study of Adult Development. It was originally called the Harvard Man Study, but I am pleased to say, ladies, we are now part of the cohort at 85 years and running. Whoop, whoop. And what it did is it followed these people over the course of their lives, and it measured everything that they could measure of them. They took every blood sample, every fluid that they could take, they took. And at the same time, they asked them loads and loads of questions about their current social state, their relationships, things like that. And this has now been replicated not just in the US, but lots of fancy institutions around the world. And there is one single conclusion from all of these fancy institutions, and that the single most important factor determining how long and happy you will live is not your cholesterol levels at 40, but whether or not you consider yourself to have a significant relationship in your life. And that doesn't need to be, a spouse or anything like that, but you feel like you have meaningful relationships in your life. That determines how long and happy you will live.
That is amazing. And I've seen the study on grandparents live longer if they live near their grandkids. I told my dad that the other day. He's got another 10 years to can't check out just yet. But anyway, listen, that was an amazing podcast. Thank you so much for coming. We had a great conversation. It'll be on YouTube. Follow the Unprocessed Truth. Everyone in the audience, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. It's amazing to have real people in the room and have real conversations and get to the truth of wellness. So as ever, it does help us to do more of these cool things, get amazing guests if you can just like, subscribe or follow and help promote the podcast wherever you can.